Okay, so this is the paths tutorial, and we're going to start with just straightforward straight line paths. But before we can do that, you'll need to add on another layer to this file so that we've got a white layer to work with. Okay, and just click on the black and white button there to recover your black and white basic colors. Use the little angle thing there to switch to white. Get your paint bucket and just fill up your white layer, because we want a we'll get to the next practice layer after we've actually made a few paths. Okay, so speaking of which, so the paths then is where your path information goes, and to start with we need to get the path tool and simply just click and click. And what you've got there is a straight line path. You have two anchor points. And there's your path. And it shows up in the paths palette as a work path. Now, if you don't change the name, it will just disappear, as it's just a working path. So just double click on that and we'll call it straight path. And we've got a straight path. Now you can see that the path is highlighted. If I click outside of the path, then it disappears off the screen. If I click back into the path, it reappears on the screen. So click off the screen and it disappears, click on the path and it reappears. Now paths themselves don't actually print. So I think what's the use of them then? Well, there's several ways that you can use the path. The first way is the simple stroke path. And before we're going to do that, what we'll do is set up a nice bright red colour so we can see what we're doing. I'll select the brush. This is a huge brush that I was using last time, so let's just change that to a soft round brush and considerably smaller. There we go. And opacity at 96, 97. Airbrush effects on. We don't really need to worry about this too much because we're just going to paint a we're just going to make a simple line. So with the straight path selected then, go down to the bottom of the paths menu bar and just hover over that, and it's a stroke path with brush. So you can click on that and it will simply stroke the path with the last brush that you set up. Okay, now let's click away from that and let's make another path. Again, we'll just use straight lines, but this time we'll click like this. Now make sure that you don't click and drag. If you click and drag at this point in time, you will create a curved corner point. And we're going to go on to those later. I just want to get used to handling the various pen tools. So with this work path, let's just double click that and we'll call this zigzag. And with this, so one of the options that you can do is to hold down the control key or the command key on the back, and it changes to what's called the direct selection tool. The direct selection tool, because this whole path is selected, will pick up the whole path. Now if we click outside of the path with the direct selection tool and then click on one of the points, then we can change that point location. Okay. So holding down the control key allows you to change between the pen tool and the direct selection tool. And that's kind of an important thing to remember and get used to, because that's very quite useful. Okay, so we can N and check where we're on. We're on the white layer, which we're gradually painting up, which is fine. Okay, with our zigzag selection tool, zigzag path selected, what we're going to do is go into the top right menu, which time. So if we go to the top right menu of the path panel, we can again stroke path. But this time it gives us the option to choose. Now you can actually use path with all of these tools, which makes it enormously powerful. We're going to go with the brush tool again, and I'll just say OK, and it's again giving us a nice red line. Now click outside of this, because what we're going to do is discover what happens if we don't click outside of the path. So if we click back inside that path tool, and then we make some more paths, and those paths also get stored inside the same path area. And so if we then needed to distinguish between this path and this path, we can do it via selection. So hold down the Control key and click on this path. Then when we go to our stroke subpath, it's got the word stroke subpath because there's a path underneath this one in a sense. And we'll do pencil, OK. And so we've stroked the subpath. So this one, this area now contains two paths, this one and this one. And it becomes important to be able to distinguish between them and decide if you wanted this one selected or this one selected. You need to hold down the Control or the Command key on the Mac and select it that way. Now if you want to move the path, what you need to do is click and drag your selection over all of the anchor points. You can then move the path in totality. Okay, so we've put two paths into one area, and we're now going to make a different kind of path. These are what's referred to as open paths, because the two ends are open. So what we're going to do is a sample of a closed path. So with both of these not highlighted, make sure you've clicked outside of the area. We'll just do a simple box. So once when I go back to the starting anchor point, it gives me this little round thing that says you're going to close the box. So now we've got a closed path. And what I'm going to do is name it. So, closed path. And we can do something different with the closed path. We can do what we did before, which is to stroke it. And the last thing we stroked it with was the pencil, so it's remembered that, and it's stroked it again with the pencil. But the other thing that we can do is fill it. So let's go and a nice bright yellow. And this time we're going to click on this button, which is, hover over it, fill path with foreground color. So click on that, and it fills the path with foreground color. So there you go. With a closed path then, you can fill it and you can stroke it. Now, the other thing that you can do with a path is selection. And so let's just make a different shape here. Oops. Okay, this is something that's a work path. Let's make it pentagon. Okay, and what we can do is turn it into a selection with this button. Now it's a selection, and we can do things like use the airbrush and paint in. Just give a bit of more interesting around the edges there. Okay. Do this as a bit of a experiment. Oops. Anyhow, you get the idea. You can use it as a way of selecting places to paint. And Control D or Command D to deselect. Okay, so we've gone through the basics of our path making. We've had a look at being able to press down on the command key to select individual points or even the whole path, and moving those points around. We've stroked them and we've filled them. So I think what we'll do is go on to our next practice piece, which is to go around the one in this layer. So let's switch off the white layer for now, and we'll make a new layer. We'll call this paint layer. So we want to make sure that this layer is selected, and we're going to go and zoom in on this house, and with the path tool what we're going to do is actually zoom in a little bit closer to that. So with the path tool, what you'll need to do is to click here. Now we can just click here and that's fine. And for angles, just click straight along the angle. But if you've got a vertical or a horizontal, you want to shift click, and shift clicking will give you a perfect horizontal or vertical. Angles, it'll give you a perfect 45 degree angle too. But you can shift click for the verticals and horizontals, and they will give you absolutely vertical and horizontal lines. Okay, so we've made the little house shape, and let's just make sure we're in the right layer. We're in the right layer for painting. Let's go to paths. Just double click on it, and we'll call it house 1. And with house 1 selected, we can, let's see, get a nice purple colour, and we'll set up a very small brush, a hard round brush, 4 pixels across. This is fine. Opacity 90, about 90 is fine. We're not bothered about building effects, and just use that to stroke the outside of the path, and then select the colour again, which is a sort of brickish colour, I suppose, and then use the fill. Oops, sorry. Then you can use that to fill the house colour. Okay, and we've not saved this yet, have we? Okay, so save as, and we can save that as you can insert your name there, shapes practice grey, there we go. Okay, should have saved that initially, but I was keen to get the thing started. Okay, so there we are, we've got our first house shape.
Okay, so to practice just using straight paths, but also practice using this area, we're going to do the big house. So let's just get the pen tool and just click, and you can shift click around the chimney, and then again click and shift click around the other chimney. Now we're on the work path, and each path that we're doing is going to be on this path. That's fine because we want to put all of these paths together. Okay, and now we're going to call this one roof, because it's got the roof and the chimney. Now, to be able to fill and stroke these things, we'll need to use the command key. Holding down the command key, I'm going to select this chimney, and then I'm going to shift select this chimney. So now I actually have these two paths selected at the same time. They did that by, first of all, holding down the command key or the control key on the PC, and then shift clicking this one and this one, so they're both selected. So I can, if I sort of stroke them both now, they'll both be stroked with blue. And actually that's a bit horrible, so I'm just going to unstroke it. Let's just go backwards in time for a second. The other thing I can do actually is to go from this. This is a stroke path. That's interesting. Okay, let's try that again. Shift click and stroke subpaths, plural. It even figures out that there's two of them, which is nice. With the pencil, let's try the brush this time. Okay, brush is a bit better. Okay, so we've stroked those two chimneys. Now let's go and fill them with, let's do slate grey for a chimney. There we are. So we've still got them selected. We could go just down here too to fill them. There we are. So there's two ways you can approach it. As long as they're selected, then Photoshop will know which one to deal with. Now we're going to, I'm holding down the control key again to bring up the direct selection tool. Clicking on this, the roof. Let's go and get something that's kind of roofy coloured. Okay. We go bright terracotta, and I'm going to fill that with the bright terracotta colour, and just to sort of get the practice with the stroke as well, we'll see. We'll give it a beige border or something like that. There we go, beige border, and we'll just use this one for that. Okay, so our little one item there on the paths has actually got those three paths, and we can individually select them so that it works for us. Now I'm going to click outside of that pathway there because I want to do the main sort of face of the house. I'm going to shift click to here and here, and because the roof and because they share a line here, I've decided to make it a kind of different path, because if you click on top of this path, then it would just add points to the path that you're clicking on top of. So that was the reason why I had to separate those two out. So shift click to there and shift click to there. So now that's got me the I've better save this, so I'll call it front wall. And what I'm actually going to do on the front wall is I'm not going to paint it in yet, because otherwise I won't be able to see everything else. So I'm going to do all of the windows on the same pathway there. So there we go. Okay. Again, I'm holding down the shift key to keep these vertical and horizontal. I might as well do the door at the same time, because be careful not to click on the wall here. Okay, so we've got everything we need except the dividers. We'll do those last. So I'm going to hold down the control key again, command key on the Mac, and I'm going to click on our first window, and I'm going to shift click on all of the others because I want them all selected, because they're all windows. We can leave the door till another day, till another time. And so let's see, something else that we can do. Let's not do that. It's complicated matters. All right, let's just give them the blue windows. There we go. So what we're going to do is make them all blue. And then we're going to do the door. So let's go and get the pen tool again, and hold the control key down so you can get hold of the door. And the door then is going to be brown. Well, so fill the door, and we'll give the door a creamy brown sort of. There we go, something like that. Give it a nice border. There we are. Okay, and finally, the front wall. If we can find it. Oh. Okay, make sure that you have the path selected that you want to get some component of. So there's the front wall. Let's see, what layers are we on? Okay, we're going to have to make a new layer to keep the wall behind the everything else, basically. So just make sure that you have a wall layer, otherwise you'll lose the rest of it. Okay, and with the wall layer selected, let's make a wall color. Brown brick, and there's our wall. And Control S to save your file. Okay, so that's a little bit of a practice with using multiple paths in just single path areas. Okay, before we can move on to curves, just to explain a few things about curves. First of all, what we've been using so far is called an anchor point. Using an anchor point, and then we've clicked on another anchor point here, and what you get between those then is the path. It's on the path that you can do things like stroke a line, or if you've got lots of paths, you can close them up and fill them with something. So that's fine for straight paths. What we're going to move on to is curved paths. Now what happens here is that you're going to click and drag, and when you drag, it's going to drag out the direction point. It will simultaneously drag out the direction point in the direction. Let's say direction point. Okay. The direction point creates a sort of force. So when we put another anchor point down and click, we're going to drag the opposite direction, it's going to create two more direction points. And the path between it will be in a curve. It'll be in a curve because this one, this direction point, is a force pulling it up on the left side, and this one is the direction of force pulling the path up this side. So what you end up with is a curve. Okay? And it's how you control those direction points that allows you to make curves. Okay, so back in our layers here. Actually, let's make a new layer so we can distinguish them a little bit more clearly. Okay. Curves, scratch. And with our curve scratch, we'll do what we did last time, which is select white paint and paint it blank like that. You can switch off the visibility of those two. Okay, back into our paths then. Let's get the pen tool. What we're going to do is what we did on the board, just click and drag. So now you've got these two direction points have come out, and then click and drag, and you've got these other two direction points that have come out.
We'll just double click on that, call it curve 1. Okay, and what we can do is, again, we can hold down the command key on a Mac or control key on a PC, and if you click on either one of these, you can see the direction point and you can change it. So you can click and drag on the direction point to change its power. The more powerful the direction point, the stronger its pull on the pathway. Now if we click over here again, if I click and drag, it's disconnected from this one. So if we want to connect these two together, you have to click again inside that point and drag, and then click and drag here. And so holding down the command key, I'm just going to both move the points around and move the angles of those points around so that we have something similar. There we go. Okay, so with by clicking and dragging, you bring out the direction pointers, and you can control the curves. Click and drag to move the angle points around, anchor points around, and you can drag to change the angle, to change the resultant sort of curve. But if you want to connect it, if you want to continue the curve, the pathway, then you need to click in it again, and then it will connect to the next curve. A common mistake is to just, click outside of it, start again, hoping that it will join together, but they won't. So again, if you want to continue this curve, you need to click inside of it with the pen tool and then continue the curve. Okay. Right, let's click outside of that, and because we want to make a new curve. The other thing that you can do, of course, is to click and drag and click and drag and click inside of here, and it will give you a closed path. So closed curve path, and again with your closed curve path you can do the same things that we did before, which is to say that we can stroke the path itself, and we can fill the path itself. Okay, so let's see what happens if we want to do a straight line and then a curve. Well, what you can, let's see, if we just click and click like we did before, so that's given us our straight line. Now if we want a curve to be here, we need to first of all click and drag out the direction line that's going to influence the curve, but at the same time we're going to click and drag out the other direction line. With the control key, we can adjust it to be whatever shape we want, really. Okay, now what about if we wanted to continue this line over here? Right, so if we want to get a straight line connecting from here to our new straight line, then what we need to do is hold down the Alt key or the Option key on a Mac and click on that anchor point. What that does is eliminate the forward-facing direction line. So there's no forward-facing direction line. Next time we click, it will be a straight line.
Okay, we're out of time. It's up to the 30-minute mark, and I'm going to leave it there. The part 2 will go into how we use both straight lines and curved lines together in order to go around the other little silhouettes that we've got on our testing, on our practice part here. So if you liked what you saw, leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Okay, bye for now.